management. There's been a lot of ICOs done, and in many of our wallets here, we have tokens, we have Bitcoin, we have Ethereum, but there's no real use case yet for these tokens. So they just sit there and they don't provide any value to us. That's why we came up with KRONOS.
So let's touch base on all the challenges right now that you identify. Starting with the first one, crypto markets is increasingly difficult to trade. So it's a new industry. Not many people have experience in it. Buy and hold, has always been a good strategy for a lot of traders. Hold a crown, everything like that. But it has been doing pretty well because everything started off very small and it's just slowly growing and everything. Low liquidity. So can you touch base on that? Can you elaborate on these ideas? Like why do you think it is that way?
Crypto markets are increasingly difficult to trade because it's a very, very new asset class. In the past, I started trading Bitcoin in 2014. When Mt. Gox went down, I'm a trader, so I try to find things that move a lot. And Bitcoin definitely fits the characteristics of something that moves very violently and moves in large ways. So when ICO came about, you had people earning 10x, 20x, 100x on some small altcoins, right? And then people really got into the space. But I think the first wave of adopters of crypto are already in this ecosystem. And the second wave of people to join, it requires a much easier on-ramp for these people to join the ecosystem. So I think that's why we've seen a lot of hype in the industry, but not much adoption. A lot of the adopters are already in this ecosystem, which basically comes to my point that the buy and hold worked earlier. But now it's much more difficult to generate returns just by buying ICOs or just by holding a token or just by holding Bitcoin, because you need massive adoption in the real economy for these tokens to actually appreciate in value.
Yeah, I've been holding my Ethereum. Haven't been able to cash it down so far. So
we can help you with that.
For sure. Let's talk after. I used to be a trader in Vancouver, so I know it's incredibly hard for normal day-to-day people to pitch $1,000, $2,000 to own a top hedge fund in the world. These guys only look into a credit investor, $250K minimum buy-in, that kind of stuff, $1 million asset. So how would KRONOS be different than these guys?
Well, in the traditional world, so I worked at BNP and then Citi and then Deutsche Bank. My partner worked at Citadel, Knight Capital, the top hedge funds, the top market makers in the world. And what we noticed is that we created some cool product. We created some cool strategies that did really well when the markets were volatile, during bear markets, during bull markets. People made money off of our strategies, but we can't invest in them. Our families cannot invest in them. Even if we have $5 million, $10 million, it's very difficult to get into a top Citadel strategy. So in crypto, it can be completely different, right?
Absolutely. Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. Different.
Yeah. So our idea is, one, how do we attract the best talent onto one platform, into one ecosystem, and then two, how do we make it more fair for people to, get access to these strategies, right? As you've seen, if you're holding Bitcoin from the beginning of this year, from $19,000, you now have $7,300, right? So this kind of buy and hold, it's very basic, and there's really no strategies right now for retail people, for even with people with a lot of money, to get into in an easy and a fair and a transparent way, right? So we want to open up these strategies to everyone in a more fair way.
So last one is about markets expertise lacking in crypto. Do you mean because there hasn't been a big, respected, long-living financial institution kind of touching their hands into crypto, talking about it, teaching about the trading, talking market analysis, that kind of stuff? Is that what you meant?
Well, hedge funds in general, by nature is very secretive. Right? If they have a good strategy, they want to hold on to it. They don't want to talk about it, and they keep the returns in a very small circle, right? And there's a lot of talent. There's a lot of trading talent, a lot of good quantitative talent in this world. But if you're kind of like an analyst at Citadel or Goldman Sachs or Morgan Stanley, it's difficult for you to quit your job making $2, $3, $500,000 a year, going into crypto without any guarantees, and then setting up all this infrastructure, connecting to all the crypto exchanges. In the same time, you're reading all this news about, all the altcoins are being manipulated by market makers. You're reading that market's unfair. You're reading that the volume is fake. So it's very difficult for traditional talent to cross over to crypto. Right? That's why there's a lack of trading talent in crypto.
So what are your solutions?
Well, part of the solutions that we came up with was creating the fundamental services and infrastructure so that it's easier for traditional guys to come into the crypto space. And all they need to worry about is generating their trading logic and putting it through our system. We handle everything else, right? From sourcing the data, from sampling the data, from the trading execution layer, the quantitative research layer, we build all of that up. We do the marketing for the fund, we do the fundraising, and all you have to do is give the trading logic.
Good. Yeah. So let's go deeper. Let's dive deeper into your points, your solution right here. Start out with this utility token, KRON. What can we do with this utility token? Can you tell us about what kind of services we get from that? How do we buy this? That kind of stuff, please.
Well, some of the services we offer are market making services. So all the crypto projects, when they list their tokens onto exchanges, we want to make it as fair as possible, as liquid as possible for people to buy and sell your tokens. When you buy, it's $1, and when you sell, it's 50 cents. In the same time frame, who's going to utilize your token? If buying and selling your token costs them 50% of the money, no one's going to adopt your token. So it's really important for there to be liquidity on both sides, right, of the bid and the ask. That's one service we provide to all crypto projects. We also provide similar services to crypto exchanges, right? So there's tons of new crypto exchanges launching, and they all need market makers to provide that volume initially on their exchanges.
How do you guarantee the liquidity? That's a major problem.
Yeah, so the question is, how do I guarantee liquidity, right? We don't guarantee the liquidity, but there's various ways to increase the liquidity over some other market makers, or if you don't have a market maker, that is probably the worst choice, right? If you have a market maker, the project team works with the service provider and actually takes tokens and Ether or Bitcoin and gives that as collateral so that the market maker can provide a liquid market around your token. Right? So it's really up to the market maker and the project team. You have to work together to provide the liquidity.
So for using KRON token, you get discount for the services like market making, everything. What is the expected discount that these people can get? Is it 50%, 25%? Do you have an idea in mind just yet? Or is that coming later?
Well, one of the ideas we had was, right now, I don't know if you guys know, but market makers charge 5 BTC to 10 BTC per pair on the exchanges to market make your tokens. We think that is really, really high. If you think about it, over 1 year, projects are spending a lot of money just providing liquidity to their own token. And that's money that could have gone to supporting their teams, their development teams, their projects, their communities. Rather, they're spending that money on market making. So our eventual hope is to be large enough and strong enough so that we can use our own collateral to provide market making services and charge almost no fee.
Great for a lot of projects right there. And for the second point, staking by users to incubate new trading teams and strategies. What do you mean by staking? Does that mean voting for the strategies that the community want, or voting for the best team, best trading team?
Yeah, you can hire, you can use our tokens to vote on some governance decisions such as hiring or firing. But what we meant by that was there are certain funds who've approached us with very specific strategy asks that we don't provide currently. So they want us to design a strategy and hire out the team just for them. So it's like, okay, well, you can stake our tokens and we'll do this job for you and we will create that strategy just for you. Yeah.
And continuously bought with profits to support market making fund. Like, can you elaborate on that? Is that like the same point as before?
Yeah, that's to, a similar point as before. With all of the revenue that we generate from market making, from trade execution, treasury management services, we'll use a portion of that to continuously buy back this utility KRON token, and we'll stake that KRON token into a collateral fund, so that once it gets large enough, we can basically use that as the collateral to trade for various projects, and we wouldn't need as much collateral from the project teams themselves.
And loyalty benefits. What are the benefits and investing, and was loyalty benefits towards investing into strategy-specific security tokens? So does that mean you can transfer your KRON into a security token owned by KRONOS?
Yeah, so I guess we have to talk about the two-token system, right? So the ecosystem is driven or fueled by this KRON token. Then each strategy will have its own security token, right? So basically, the KRON token gives you access, right? Gives you the first rights to participate in any new strategy that launches.
Okay.
Right? And the loyalty comes from the longer kind of you hold it, the more services you provide to the ecosystem, you would gain some sort of like reputation points, and then that entitles you to discounts, to more services, to higher level services.
I see. That's great. So these are just a few points about the the ecosystem. Can you touch base on the ecosystem that you're trying to build, and why you think ecosystem is bigger than hedge fund? Like, hedge fund does all these things and is its own ecosystem? Why do you separate ecosystem and hedge fund in this case?
Yeah, so I guess this is like why do we have a token, right? Why don't we just do a hedge fund and charge people money in the traditional way, right? Our thinking is that if you think about the hedge fund industry in the traditional markets, it started as one guy being very good at trading certain types of things in a certain type of way, and they created a single hedge fund, right? But what people later notice is that if market conditions change, if the portfolio manager doesn't perform well for whatever reason, then that hedge fund is done, right? And all that work that built up that hedge fund is gone too, from marketing, from the infrastructure, the legal, everything's gone. And they have to recreate a new one, right? And then the multi-strategy hedge fund industry kind of came up like Citadel, right? So the head guy at Citadel, he's a great trader, but he doesn't trade himself, right? Nowadays, he just picks the best talent to put into his ecosystem, if you will, right? Called Citadel. So what does Citadel provide, right? Why do these awesome traders from MIT, from Harvard, whatever, why do they join Citadel as opposed to making their own hedge fund, right? Because they offer the best, co-location, the best speed, right? The best research platform, the best resources. So that's what we're trying to create in crypto, right? If we can create this ecosystem and incentivize everyone to kind of make it better and better with a token, well, of course we would try that, right? So that's why.
Okay. So what is the reason why you launch your own token instead of using like a popular one out there, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, or NAM? You can ask Kimball on some advice on NAM.
Yeah, maybe we should talk about NAM with Kimball. Yeah. Well, to use our own token gives our ecosystem a lot of advantages, right? you can really incentivize people to work in specific ways on our ecosystem,
Yes.
as opposed to being their loyalties being somewhere else, right? So that's why.
So another question's more about like the idea of like cryptocurrency is equal to everyone kind of thing. So for on KRON, will on KRON holder equal? Like say if I hold 1 million KRON token, is it different from like someone else who hold only like 1,000 KRON token? Are they equal, or I will be considered like a different tier?
Well, if you're holding more KRON tokens, then you're definitely luckier than the other guy.
Like, do I get more privilege? Do I get more privilege, access to like airport lounges, something like that? Do I get those kind of things?
Our thinking is that initially, at least, the more KRON tokens you have, the more voting power you have, and the more access you have to the funds that we launch. Right. So if we launch a fund and the maximum amount we can take in is $100, right? You own 1 token and he owns 100 tokens. Of course, this guy with more KRON tokens should be, prioritized in accessing the new strategy. But eventually, we're going to have some sort of a reputation system, and the more you contribute to our strategy, the more you contribute to the ecosystem, the kind of more benefits you'll get, and the more the amount of tokens you have would be less important.
I see.
The whole point is to incentivize people to help out the ecosystem. It's not to incentivize the super rich to benefit off of this.
Anyway, yeah. Let's talk about a security token. Now, this is the big topic. What's your concern? Like, why do you decide to launch a security token? Like, there's a lot of concern. Like the U.S., the SEC is gonna have some problem with the security. The securities is way different class. It's subject to regulation from governments. There's a lot of things about it, right? So why do you want to launch a security token?
Well, if you see how this industry has been changing the last few months, people launch utility tokens, right? While telling people that the price will increase, or trying to make those assertions, right? To try to get people to buy their utility tokens.
The hype.
Right? But in the end, they notice that there's not much support in the real market for their utility token. So our thinking is, we really want to attract institutional money to come into the space, and I think security tokens is the right gateway to attract institutions to come in. With a security token, you can actually tie the revenues or the profits to the value of the security of the token.
Yeah.
So
like, what about your location? You're based in Taiwan. Do you have concern that the Taiwanese government will have like a bad connotation about it? We all know Taiwan is pretty open about crypto, but things can change quickly, like elections, whatever. Like the political landscape can change within like matter of months.
yeah, it's very unclear actually when the security token ecosystem will be large enough or mature enough to support liquid trading of these tokens. And I think Taiwan will not be the first place to launch a security token exchange. That's definitely the case. I think the first security tokens will launch probably in the Philippines, the US, and Germany actually.
Really?
Yeah, so it doesn't matter where we're based, we can issue these tokens from anywhere.
So that means you would do annual public filing of your returns, everything like that.
Yeah, I think in Vietnam at least, you've seen a lot of scams come through, very large, very public. So I think the investing public has lost some faith in this supposedly trustless industry, right? And I think part of our responsibility is not only to open these strategies to as many people as possible, but it's also to create a more transparent way for people to verify that our returns are real, right? And our trades are real.
Yes. So let's talk about AI intelligence. So part of your KRONOS fund strategy relates a lot about AI. Figured out like the model predictions, figured out what's the next Is the value of the market gonna go up or down? Like, can you talk about like what sort of AI is, what sort of algorithm you're using, who's running the AI, who's running an AI team, what's his background, that kind of stuff.
Well, luckily this is not run by me, so it's run by my co-founder, Mark Pimentel. Mark has 3 degrees from Carnegie Mellon in 3.5 years. He did computer engineering and finance, computer engineering, bachelor's and master's. He also had a bout with cancer in Carnegie Mellon, but he still graduated in 3.5 years. So he went straight to Citadel after CMU. So he's been, working with kind of big data, AI systems for all of his career. The guys that he hires into his team at Citadel and Knight Capital, they all have PhDs, right? So here's Mark, this 20-something-year-old guy hiring these PhDs into his team, right? So that's kind of the background he has. And the strategies that he runs, it's really more about like physics. It's looking at the microstructure of these order books, of these trading exchanges, and then trying to exploit any kind of weaknesses there are. He tries to figure out, like, for a particular pair, let's say, what volume is by market makers and which market makers. How do they get input into the order book? At what speed, at what time, at what size? How do they change? That's the kind of stuff he looks at, and then he designs his trading strategies based on that. Yeah.
So assuming with these, you also like look into like the potential problems when you use a lot of computers, like when the market has flash crashes, technical glitches. Like, do you like think about this and have any like sort of prevention strategies for these things?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can't go into too much details about what exactly he does because partially I just don't know, and the other part is he doesn't want me to talk about this too much.
I see.
But I would say that crypto exchanges right now are not very reliable, right?
Yes.
They have API connections, but not very reliable, not very fast, not very scalable, blah blah blah. So that's why we're connected to many different crypto exchanges, and we try to source liquidity and do the trades on multiple exchanges to cut out that risk that if one exchange goes down, then we lose all the funds or something like that.
So like, do the investor deserve to do they have the right to know about like where you sorting your data is from? Like, say where you pulling these data from what exchanges, whatever it is. Like these data they use to punch into the AI algorithm. Can the investor know about this? Will you disclose it?
I think we're very open about the data. The data comes directly from exchanges, and we also buy data from data providers. So it's very expensive to buy the data, and it's very difficult to find the best data to use. We need very granular data for many of the strategies that we have. But we also record our own data. Yeah. Yeah.
Can you talk about the chart?
Sure. The red line is Bitcoin. The blue line is one of our strategies, right? And this is called a CTA strategy. It's actually not our core strategy because Mark's strategies require a long time to backtest. We won't have that ready until September. But this is created by Kevin, who we will show. Kevin actually manages $500 million right now in the traditional space. And this is his first CTA strategy for crypto. It looks at momentum factors, it looks like mean reversion factors, and tries to do trades that are like a few days to a few weeks in duration. Whereas Mark's strategy does trades that are a few minutes to a few hours in duration. Right? So the predictability for this strategy is lower, but the capacity is higher. So that means you can put a lot of money into the strategy and it will not affect the returns as much. So you can see in most circumstances, this strategy actually returns higher than Bitcoin. Right? The only year that it didn't perform better than Bitcoin is in 2017 when it spiked very fast, very aggressively. The strategy takes time to catch up, right? The strategy takes time to make the trades. So over the last few years, the strategy massively outperformed Bitcoin.
So like these data points on the charts on this thing can be manipulated using these statistics to kind of like give a false impression to investor in a few cases in the financial world. Is that the reason why you want to move to blockchain to ensure that sort of the transparency and data immutability?
Yeah, definitely. I think, well, our backgrounds are, I'm American citizen, Mark's American citizen. If we put out data that is false, then it's just fraud, right? And we'll go to jail for that. Uh, but I think eventually all of our trades will be on the blockchain. I don't know if we can publicize that. I don't know if we would publicize that. But I think if someone wanted to check our records, they should be able to do it very easily. Yeah, and for all of our strategies and trades, will be audited at least quarterly by the large accounting firms like PwC or Deloitte.
Let's talk about your strategies now. So you have market making, which you have touched on before, alpha-based risk taking. Oh, can you talk about that?
So this alpha-based risk taking, alpha-based market making is what Mark's specialty is. And these are very high sharp strategies. They're very short term in nature. The returns should be very stable. So that's kind of the strategy set there. The smart index is more like ETF index based. It could be a smart index. It could have some momentum factors. The index funds would have a very high capacity, right? So you could put $1 billion, $2 billion into it, and it would perform the same. For these alpha-based risk-taking, market-making models, the more you put into them, the return falls, right?
Yes.
So they're not very high capacity, which is why we need to have a system where it's more fair to distribute the allocations into these funds based on how much work you do for this ecosystem.
And so Trey's new ICO and recent token issuance. So you're gonna be involved with more venture side of the ICO. You're gonna put money into that.
Yeah, because we get approached by projects a lot and by funds to help their projects market make their tokens, right? So if we like a project, we'll likely invest into their private sale or public sale, and then we also provide market making as a service to them later on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on the so say there's a market downturn or something bad happens, do you have strategies to kind of deal with it? We all know you can't just make money all the time. So there will be time there'll be something bad that's gonna happen. Do you have strategies in mind to kind of prevent that? Or just to deal with it?
Yeah, so the previous chart that we saw, this year Bitcoin is down a lot, right? More than 50%. Ether is down more than 50%.
Yes.
But our strategy is up 60-something%, right? Why? Because it's not supposed to follow the market. Our strategies are not supposed to follow the market, right? They're not beta strategies.
Yeah.
Beta strategies are just, if something goes up 1%, your strategy goes up 2%. If it goes down 1%, it goes down 2%. That's a beta strategy.
Yeah.
Our strategy is supposed to find out, if the market is going to fall, but there's no way to short, no way to bet that it'll fall, it'll just do nothing. It'll just buy USDT. So for a CTA strategy, you'll see that many times it's just flat, right? It's not in Bitcoin, it's not in Ether, it's just in USDT, right?
See.
Yeah. So all these strategies, why they're so coveted in the traditional space is that they benefit from volatility. They benefit from moves. As long as you predict that short-term move correctly, that's how we make money. We don't care if Bitcoin goes to 20,000 or to 5,000. Yeah.
So you don't ride the wave like a lot of people, that kind of stuff, right?
Ride the wave is like CTA. This is more benefiting from volatility.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Experience and excellence. Let's talk about a team. So, Mark.
So that's our beautiful founder, and so he worked at Citadel. His group actually made $2 billion in 2007 and 2008. You guys are really young, but if you remember back then, it was a very, very difficult time for people in finance. and for people who held stocks globally, right? You know, the portfolios of many of my friends, my family members, went down by more than 50% in 2007 during the great financial crisis. But Mark's team was able to kind of benefit from this high volatile period, and they made a lot of money. And their team was all over the covers of, you know, Bloomberg and Forbes and all this kind of stuff. So I came from the traditional finance world as well, but I came from kind of the sell side, right? Deutsche Bank, BNP. I structured the first CLO, so credit derivative, for BNP Americas. It was a very interesting time. Learned a lot, but I'm definitely glad that I'm in this industry, right? Yeah.
So why move to Taipei from the States? Why make the move? Why did you stay in the States?
Easy answer is regulation,
Yeah.
but there's so much more other than regulation, right? I think in Asia, people are more willing to take risks, and therefore some of the technologies actually get adopted earlier. People like to trade things in Asia. So, you know, for us, a lot of our clients are Asia-based ICOs, Asia-based exchanges. So being here makes it much more easy to understand what is happening and service our clients in the best way.
Have you guys looked at Singapore before?
Yes, we're often in Singapore, yeah, in Korea, and in Japan.
Wow.
Yeah.
And your partner in crypto trading, Rand Yi.
Brad E was you know, one of my best friends from Carnegie Mellon, so I've known him for 15 years. He was in the traditional space as well, doing quantitative trading. He has a fund of funds right now, and they do high frequency strategies in the traditional market. Yeah. So one of the reasons why we're moving from traditional to crypto actually is that in the traditional market, it's not very volatile, right? So these strategies work, but they don't work as well as in crypto, right? A 30% return in traditional markets is amazing. A 30% return in crypto is like nothing. Yeah.
100% the next
Right,
day.
right. This is our tech team in Taipei. Kaide, actually a former lead engineer at Yahoo, and he started coding at age 11. He reverse engineered a game at age 11, going through 100,000 lines of machine code. Yeah,
Awesome.
so that's Kaide. Joe Sherping, you know, he moved to Taipei by himself, and he found us after, you know, a couple months of traveling in Taipei. He used to work at IBM Watson in New York. Very bright guy. So that's one of the reasons why we like being in Taipei. We get a lot of good technical talent, and they're very loyal to us as well.
They happen to stumble upon you, or just kind of like they get attracted to the KRONOS team?
It's a small blockchain space. We worked out of a co-working space for a few months, and the Ethereum Foundation was actually above us.
Yeah.
And you know, all these guys know the Ethereum Foundation guys, and then we just got connected. Yeah.
Great, yeah. And the two traders, like are they from the state? Oh, they're from they're from Taiwan. Yeah.
Yeah, so the best university is National Taiwan University, and the best majors are physics and computer science. So that's kind of their backgrounds. All physics or quantitative guys. Yeah. The previous slide, please. Yeah. So Eugene is almost like Mark's clone. They traded very similar styles in similar markets, but Eugene actually has more of a big data tilt. He's been working at Twitter, and he's been responsible for kind of the turnaround in Twitter. So he's very senior there right now, but he's contributing actively to the design of our kind of infrastructure, as well as some alpha strategies. Kevin is our good friend from Shanghai. He manages $500 million in the traditional space, and that CTA strategy that you saw is actually from him.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we have some blockchain kind of crypto advisors. Yeah, yeah.
Let's go next slide. So these are like your early investor partners, etc. Like kind of thing. Like you have some like highlights about these guys.
Yeah, you know, JRR Crypto is actually the second largest shareholder in Binance. So they recently got into token funds. They're a big miner in the traditional mining space, actually. GF.network is a new fund by Fimbushi. So it's the same guys running GF Network and Fimbushi. Blockcrafters is from Korea, and they're partners with one of the largest media companies in Korea for blockchain. QuestChain. This is a very interesting one, which I didn't know until recently, after they invested. They own the co-working spaces for Ethereum Foundation in Shanghai, in Beijing, and Shenzhen. Yeah, so they're friends with Just Fund, and you know they do meetups. They're partners with Bihu, the largest blockchain media company in China. So all these guys have a lot of BTC, a lot of capital that they hoped to deploy into ICOs, right? Because last year ICOs were really hot and making money was easy, so attracting money into crypto funds was also easy. But once they attracted a lot of money, the market kind of crashed, and there's nothing to do with that money now. So they need services like what we're providing to provide a return for their investors.
So one question: why are you coming to Vietnam now? Because I know like you coming here, you organize this dinner, you sponsor this to get to know the networking, to network to the key people in the blockchain industry here. Why are you looking into Vietnam right now?
Right now, I mean, I always wanted to kind of visit Vietnam because I noticed that the trading volume on exchanges is really, really high. And I don't think a lot of people actually focused on Vietnam. So the demand is very organic, right? And you know, I just wanted to come and understand who the players here are and why this is. Right? For us, this whole platform is about opening up to the world, right? Whoever has that appetite to get into these funds, to use the ecosystem and its services, we want to be open to them. Right? And if people here are very open to crypto and blockchain and trading, we want to be here. Yeah.
Roadmap. So this is your fundraising round right now. You're getting money to do that whole token, utility token, security token. Can you talk about like what have you done so far and what you plan to do next?
So we raised our first round in June. We didn't really have a white paper, we didn't have a website, but we managed to raise $3 million through our strong network of funds. So we're very lucky for that. Now we're in our private sale. We want to finish this in August and then do a public sale in September. Yeah. For the public sale, we'll probably go with some sort of a platform. Yeah.
Like,
in terms of trading, our services go live next week.
Wow.
So we start market making for a top 30 exchange. We start market making for a couple of projects as well. And the alpha strategies begin trading in September.
Great, yeah. Last questions. What do you think are your current shortcomings? What have you done bad that you think is below your expectation? And what would you do to make you a better project to invest?
Wow. Okay. Let me self-reflect a little bit. Yeah. I think we just have not had the time to strategize how to tell our story to everyone in the best way, right? So we've kind of been scattered with our resources, like going here, going there, and just attending conferences, and we haven't really focused on creating large-scale events. So I think with your help, with some of our friends here, let's change that and really distribute the message more broadly.
Great. Yeah. So, any questions from the audience? Anyone wants to ask KRONOS any question about their strategies, about the team, anything?
No? Great. Okay, thanks. Yes.
Please.
Yeah, so our thinking with strategies is, if we already have one type of strategy, we're very less likely to bring on another strategy that is very similar. So we want orthogonal strategies that perform well in different types of markets, right? So if you think about it like that, we'll probably have about 10 strategies 6 months after launch, and then probably just up to like 20 eventually. If you do not have our tokens, you cannot participate in the funds initially. Once the fund tokens are listed on exchanges, then anyone who has access to the exchange can participate. Yeah? But we are incentivizing people to utilize our token by providing, like let's say you invest using our token, we give you a discount on the management fees or a better split on the profits. Yes. Yes, so we're similar, right? So if you want our services like market making, we're not going to reject your money. If you want to pay us in BTC, we will take your BTC. But if you use our services and pay with KRON, we will give you a discount. Yeah.
How fast can we expect a real worldwide launch?
Of the security tokens,
because
or
you guys are still very geographically contained in Asia because of who you are and who you work with. But are you waiting for partners in every area of the world, or is it more just let's see where it goes in Southeast Asia and then see who asks for us first elsewhere?
I think for the public sale, we'll try to be as distributed as possible. One reason why Zane is on the team is because he speaks German, so we're definitely very global in our mindset, but because we're based in Asia, it's just easier to kind of talk to the funds here as opposed to going into Silicon Valley and pitching like Pantera or something. Yeah.
CTA strategy that was in that slide, what kind of CTA strategy was that? Was it a trend following strategy?
Yeah, it was trend following strategy.
If a decentralized exchange finally got a significant market share, how would that affect your future strategy?
I think it would be great because, we're worried about the custody aspect, right? So if we put our money all into like exchange, something exchange, and they get hacked, all the money is gone. So decentralized custody actually would be great for us. I think the market making would change, the nature of market making would change. We're actually working with decentralized exchange, rather large decentralized exchange right now to figure out how we can push this forward, make our own liquidity pool. Counting of the trades of Yeah, so I think we're going to rely on a large, well-known accounting firm to satisfy whoever's buying these funds, right? So we have to spend a lot of money, I think, initially to do that. But if this gentleman, as he says, decentralized exchanges become more useful, we can probably put a lot of things on the blockchain, okay? And it would make fund management, it would make accounting kind of more transparent.
Hi, Jack.
Hi.
So if your trading strategies are so good, why you sharing it with everyone?
So we don't share, we don't give you the code, we don't give you the trading logic, all that is ours. What we are allowing you to do is putting your money into the strategy. So as a traditional hedge fund, you would have, what, 10 or 20 LPs, right? Here, we can just use a token, represent our strategy, and distribute as globally as possible, right? Well, it's really making this whole system more fair, right? It doesn't really make sense to only allow a couple of people to participate in the best strategy, right? I think that contributes to the rising wealth gap in this whole world. Yes. 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 So then each strategy has its own market price, right? And that's never been done before. Right. Yeah. Once it lists on an exchange, people are free to buy and sell as they wish. So let's say we launch a high frequency strategy. We say that the cap is $20 million, and we'll just, from our investor network, many of them will just put in that money, right? Whoever owns the utility tokens, they have a certain allocation, they can put it in. Once they put it in, we start trading on the secondary exchange, and then anybody can buy and sell, right? So if these strategies are performing well and the max allocation is very low, it'll trade at a premium probably, right?
Any other questions? Guess, oh.
So the reason for issuing the KRONO token
That's definitely one part of it, and I think we're just thinking how to really build an ecosystem, right? How to incentivize managers to be loyal to this system, how to incentivize to make our system better. That's the point of the KRON token. The point of the security tokens is what is the most efficient way to open up our strategies to everyone. Right? Again, not to give them the code, but to let them participate.
You're building up an ecosystem, and you seem to be wanting to build up a big one, like almost like a fund, 10 funds, major funds into like this one ecosystem. What is the first layer of this ecosystem would you like to build up with the KRONO token?
The first layer is the kind of, if you have a trading strategy, let's say your trading strategy is to go long Bitcoin every time it falls 5% and sell it every time it goes up 10%, right? That's just your trading logic, right? So we want to have a system where you can submit the trading logic and it'll execute directly for you, right? And all the economics, all the kind of fees, all the profit and losses, it gets distributed automatically. That is the first layer that we'll build, right? Then we can do our market making, and then eventually we'll have more intelligent models. Eventually you can test your trading logic through our system. You can use our data, right? So it's going to be more and more and more that you can use on this ecosystem.
So how do you envision that when submit the strategy, how would you create it so that would it be like just English language description that I can tell you, or would it be a smart contract?
Right now it's a VWAP file. Yeah. And we can take in the data like every hour. Eventually it'll be more and more frequent.
So then for each strategy, will you be posting like a daily updated net asset value of that strategy?
I actually think that the NAV can be live, right?
Oh, like
Yeah.
current.
Yeah, it could be current.
So that'll be interesting because all alts tend to trade together sometimes.
Absolutely.
But yours will have this other component where it can
Yes.
potentially trade differently.
Yes, most likely it'll trade differently, right? Because we're supposed to be, a lot of the strategies are supposed to be market neutral.
Is it possible then to take a token and redeem it for
Yeah.
X amount of whatever is in the fund?
Yeah, it should be. We're still working out the logic there, but it should be. But there needs to be redemption periods, and those periods would vary in length and probably frequency based on what it is the underlying strategy is.
Thank you.
Are you kind of ranking strategies? Like, if there's 10 strategies, are you going to rank these 10 strategies and reject all the ones that come into play and if it doesn't work out?
Yeah, so there's a lot of platforms actually that offer quantitative strategies. Some of them have tokens, some of them don't have tokens. But I think a lot of these strategies are about like trading bots, right? HyperQuant is one, and I'm sure there's many others that allow a lot of people to submit their own strategies. And then if money goes into them, they make money, then they'll split part of that with the traders. There's other platforms that allow people to follow good traders, right? If you're a good trader, you allow other people to follow you, then you get some economics from that, right? So there are a lot of these types of platforms. It's more retail based. It's more like a more gamified thing. For us, it's really getting the top managers onto this platform, getting the top strategies onto the platform, and we'll definitely, if a strategy is not performing, we'll close it down and we'll replace it with another one. We want to keep the quality really high.
I have an important question, I think, for you. So I'm not clear as to why I would buy the. It seems like the money to be made is probably buying into a good strategy, So it's not clear to me. Why would I buy the KRONOS token?
Sure.
And how does that translate into something I'm getting?
Sure. So maybe one way to think about it is if all our strategies are just mediocre, right? But we're really good at fundraising. And I fundraised $5 billion into these strategies, and I charge a management fee. Even though the strategies suck, I still get management fee, and I have money to support the ecosystem token. But that's kind of one argument, and there's more.
So one last question, everyone. Please raise your hand if you have a question. One last question. Anyone? Yeah.
Hey, me again. Hi. So you have this KRONO token. Can you just tell me how much it is that you're trying to raise?
18 million.
Oh, so
USD.
little.
Yeah, so we just want to raise enough to kind of support our burn rate for 2 years, build up the infrastructure, and have enough to test out strategies.
So you reckon you'll spend $18 million in 2 years building out the technology platform for this?
Well, it's an ICO, so there are many expenses related to exchange listing, right? Marketing, all that kind of stuff. It's very expensive to build up a truly solid trading platform, right? If you know GSR, they're a big market maker, and they spent $3 million building out just a market making infrastructure, right? So we're a little bit more than that, right? We have a quantitative research layer as well, like data sampling layer as well. So it's a bit more.
Why isn't this being paid for by the individual strategies?
Well, it's a chicken and egg thing, right? So how do we raise money for individual strategies without having a platform?
Well, you're just trading. If you're just trading, why wouldn't you just do it in-house, raise some money first, and then fund yourself?
Yeah, so then we have to sell equity, right?
If you're managing someone else's money, you're just charging a fee.
So how much do I have to raise to get $18 million to spend the first year?
Doesn't matter, you're good at it.
Well, I'm not that good. I don't think I can raise that much in crypto, for the crypto market. I don't think there's any way to compete with the economics of that.
Okay, so if I'm holding the token now, what's going to happen is it gets me priority access into some of your projects, and also over time you'll buy it back, assuming that the price will go up for me.
Well, that's not assured, right? Because buying back does not necessarily mean that the price will rise. Yeah, and also it's not just access to funds. It's not priority access to funds. It's also discounted for services, right?
Okay, thank you.
Anyway, everyone, so that's the end of the interview. Please give Jack a round of applause.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy the food.
I hope that answered all your questions. If you still have more questions, reach Jack or Zane or Felix over there.
Thanks, man.